Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here and you like home arcade, hit like, hit subscribe. Today we're talking about, will Arcade1up come out with Cruis'n? Do you think that is an arcade cabinet that they'll come out with? So I'm going to give you a couple reasons why I think it's going to happen. It's going to happen. We're going to play this game. The game is, can we find a reason why they won't do it? Okay, that's what we're going to try to do. And so this is a live stream. I'm going to give you my pitch. And then I'd love for you to join in and tell me, give me a reason why they're not going to do it. So let's go jump right in. So using Wikipedia as a kickoff point, let's take a look at Crusin USA. And this is, of course, a midway game. So that's our first one. That's a check mark towards can they do it, because do they work with that publisher already? And of course, the Mortal Kombat is out. And more recently, they have been working with Midway. And this newer Mortal Kombat version, I guess, is already sold out. Like, if you wanted to get it, but you didn't buy it, too bad, because you can't get it now because it's sold out. But don't worry. Don't worry. They said this is their, what do they call it? The Legacy lineup? This is supposed to be their evergreen. It's not just like a pre-order and then you're never going to get it again. They're just going to keep on making it. Or will they? We'll find out. But anyway, so Midway, you know, they've worked with that. I'm going to give you something else, more than just Midway. Check out the publisher. Right under the publisher on Wikipedia, Eugene Jarvis was the director of this. I'm going to give you a leak here. So John D keeps on saying, Eugene Jarvis, we're working with Eugene Jarvis. He keeps on slipping his names and all those different... He wants to get it out there that whatever that guy's working on, this is my 2 cents. Whatever this guy, Eugene Jarvis, has ever worked on in the past, they're probably having conversations with him and saying, hey, wouldn't you like to revive some of the great titles at Midway that you worked on? And don't you think Cruis'n is probably in discussion? So think about it. Outrun is another Arcade1up cabinet that came out, but that's by Sega. You can't have Midway saying, come on, like Midway is going to be like, we want our cabinet to come out, right? Think about that. Sega had their little spotlight where they got their cabinet, their Outrun with the driver, and a lot of people gave a lot of feedback. What's cool about Cruis'n, that's a Midway. Eugene Jarvis is probably behind it and says, come on, let's take everything you learned about Outrun and let's apply it to make the Cruis'n better. Come on. So there's another really fun, thing about it. Now we got to talk about the hardware. We always talk about the hardware, so let's jump into that. So the Sega Outrun, that was a little easier one for them to do because of the hardware. Not much hardware restrictions. Those games can run really well. We'll use like a Raspberry Pi as to illustrate, right? So think of the power of the Raspberry Pi 3B. Think of the games that are possible to run on that system. Well, if you can run it on a Raspberry Pi 3, then you're going to be able to run it on an Arcade1up. What I'm trying to say is Arcade1up could come out with games that could run on that system. Why? Because they've demonstrated through the various arcades that Arcade1up has released that they're capable of running that level of hardware. But what is Cruis'n USA hardware? Well, this is a great website. So system16.com shows that if you compare the hardware specs, it's a little more beefier, right? We're talking about Cruis'n USA that has a little bit more polygons, but John keeps on talking about polygons. He's like, oh, games that can do polygons. I mean, look at our big buck hunter, right? And if you think about it from a hardware point of view, think about their pinball, the Star Wars pinball, Marvel, right? Those cabinets have a lot of moving graphics. And so some of the restrictions for the arcade games, these are games, right? They're not necessarily the CPU. It's the GPU. Right? And so think of Raspberry Pi 3, GPU, processing speed, type of games you could play on it. Think of the games that don't play very well. Well, John has said previously that their newer hardware, or hardware that they can choose for some of the games, can run games that are more in that later 90s, a little bit more graphical intensive, requires a little bit more GPU memory and speed to be able to play. What does this mean? Well, a really good lineup for the Cruis'n USA would be the trilogy, right? So like all the games from the 90s, right? So we're talking about Cruis'n, Cruis'n World, and Cruis'n Exotica. Those three games would be trifecta, right? I don't even know what that word means. I hope it doesn't mean anything offensive. It would be great, right? And we know that Cruis'n USA and Cruis'n World run on the same hardware, right? I mean, heck, could we even get Off-Road Challenge? That runs on the same hardware. Could that be a thing? But it's a different hardware for the Cruis'n Exotica. And the Cruis'n Exotica is more of a 1999's game. And so, will they wait? That is the question. And the other piece you have to understand, Arcade1up more recently, they have to worry about support. And I think they hire companies sometimes. They have a company in Hong Kong as well that does some of their emulation. I think that's basically just Arcade1up Hong Kong. I could be wrong. But they like to use different companies like your Code Mystics. So they're using their commercial emulator. And it's like insurance, I think. I think that's why they use Code Mystics. Not because they're brilliant and they're like, oh my God, we know how great Code Mystics is. I just made fun of them. That's fine. But I think it's more of like, hey, we're gonna put them on the hook. They're gonna do the emulation. We're gonna offload all that work to them, and they bring something brilliant to the table. That's great. But also, if there's any issue, they're like, it's Code Mystic's fault. Go fix it. You know, they probably have a contract that has some type of level of support, right? So, is there a company out there that has already got hardware, software emulation that would run on the hardware of the Arcade1up that can do something like the Zeus 2 hardware that's 1999 Cruis'n Exotica? Maybe not. So that is the one thing that I found in the little bit of research. I'm sure you have more. I don't know. Today, Tim D from YouTube, I put up a community post. He said, it's been briefly mentioned before, but I'd like to hear some more in-depth thoughts about the chances of Arcade1up releasing a Cruis'n games, he says. With Killer Instinct coming out, does that up the odds? Very good point, Tim, because it could, because we're seeing games more in that era, that later era, that could possibly run on their hardware. He says, would Cruis'n... Oh, he even mentioned Cruis'n Exotica. Would Cruis'n Exotica be too hard to emulate? Who would skip Outrun to get Cruis'n? I'm on the boat of rather having Cruis'n games over Outrun. All right, so that's my general thoughts on Cruis'n. I think it's on their roadmap, right? They're working with Midway already. They totally have the license to the games. They're probably not signed deal or anything like that, but they have all the contacts, right? I think they have the hardware to do at least the first two games. And they got the director, Eugene Jarvis, in their back pocket. I don't know what that means, but like they like each other. So when people like each other, deals happen, right? Okay. It's the Cruis'n Exotica that I don't know. That's the one thing. Like, would you only want two games, or would you rather wait to get the other, the Cruis'n Exotica? Now there's another one, Cruis'n, I think that came out in like 2007. That's probably not going to get on there. You're not going to get all those four. You're probably only going to get the two, maybe three, but will it come out soon? I don't know. So that's all the time I have for today, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Just kidding. Hey guys, what's up? So we got the gang here. How's it going, guys? I'm going to go back in the stream. We got a couple people asking about, hey, what do you think about the WandaVision finale? That's a good topic that we can be talking about. How's my day? I got a haircut. Does it look all right? Anyway, so that's my day. My day is went out and got a haircut. So if we talk about Wanda, we'll keep it spoiler free. That's for sure. Let's see. And then let's see. Justin is cruising. Yeah. Okay. I enjoyed WandaVision 2 by Lori. Looking forward to Falcon the Winter Soldier. I know, right? It was so cool how, like, we had the Raya and Wanda finale same day, and boom, right on Disney Plus, they're like, Winter Soldier right on the hero carousel, right? They're like, you got to watch the trailer. So the trailer looks really good. Real quick on WandaVision, no spoilers here. I will say that I watched the series with my family, and my daughter was just like glued. She's 12. she was just like glued to it, and she was very satisfied with the season finale. And I was kind of keeping an eye on her, see if she was enjoying it. And she really did. And we talked about it afterwards, and she's really excited about what could come next. Then we watched the trailer for the Winter Soldier, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And that looked really cool too. And that comes out in 2 weeks. So it'll be another series to enjoy on Disney+. So that is my spoiler-free conversation about it. Love to hear what you guys think. Let's see what else we have in the chat here. It would have to be Cruis'n USA, Cruis'n World, and Cruis'n Exotica, but the problem would be hard for Exotica. Yeah, I think that's it, man. That's the tough piece. Is can they emulate Exotica well? They probably could get it to work, but will it run well? That's the question. Let's see. Yeah, so we're asking Nikki, well, what did you think, Nikki, about WandaVision? And Vic says WandaVision was good. And Hollywood, it's on my list to watch, but haven't yet. Okay, Nikki, you haven't seen it yet, so definitely no spoilers. It's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, I really love it when my graphics move, Lewis says. It's really important when you're playing video games, because when you're playing video games, if those graphics don't move, it's not even worth playing, right? Let's see. See what else we got. Dude, please give me more than 1 day on WandaVision, please. Give more than 1 day on WandaVision. What do you mean, Bob? Oh, and Bob, you also had a topic for tonight. Let's see. Let me look, Bob. In the community post, Bob had some. What game rooms people have? Share some ideas and collectible products. A possible option. Let's help out Bob, everybody, here in the chat. So, if you have an arcade room that you've decorated, hit 1. Hit 1 to say you're an expert at this topic. Okay? And I'm going to chime in here. I do have arcades behind me, but I'm not an expert. So I'm going to put 0 in here. 0 for Zero Hero. And for Deputy Van Halen jumping ahead. So what's the inside scoop of Arcade1up? Let's see if I can sum it up in a minute. This will be on the replay. The first 7 minutes of the video is the main primary thing. I think they'll do it. They have Midway in their pocket. They have Eugene Jarvis in their pocket, whatever in your pocket means. I think that means they have a connection. That's right, Tim D. That was your topic. I liked your topic. I was like, I can make a thumbnail on that. Let's go live about that. And then we'll talk about whatever we want afterwards as well. And the beginning half will be like the primary thing probably people watch on the replay. And then we'll have fun over here and talk about whatever we want. Take it like we get 2 videos in one. We get a short Console Kits video, and we get a live stream all in one. Okay, anyway, so we got a couple people. So for Cruis'n Exotica, that's the issue. Cruis'n Exotica came out in 1999. It's on a different hardware. We don't know if it can emulate it. We know Arcade1up is somewhere between a Raspberry 3 and a Raspberry Pi 4 on their higher end. Like even if you look at their Pac-Man units, like their Pac-Man units are not even a Raspberry Pi 3 level. Raspberry Pi 3 is when it comes to CPU, it's like a quad core, and some of the newer Pac-Man units are a dual core. But some of their other units are like quad core and better RAM, better GPU, and it's like more closer to like a Raspberry Pi 4. Even that hardware may not be able to run Cruis'n Exotica very well. If you're going to do a cabinet, you're probably going to want to do those 3 games together. So they'll probably do it because they can get the license, but when they'll do it, that's the question. Or would they just go ahead and release it with only 2 games? I don't know. The other thing was there's some other games in the 1999 era that I do understand that they have in their roadmap that are very 3D polygon And John's like, we can totally do it. So maybe Cruis'n Exotica could happen, but I think it's going to be expensive for them to bump up their hardware to be able to play a game like that, and then it may come down to cost. Okay, anyway, so now we're talking about game rooms, right? So Vic Vicious, he says 80s themed arcades. So this is a cool topic. So I think what he's trying to say is when you're thinking about your game room and you're thinking about how to design it, think about a theme. And so Vic Vicious is saying, what about an 80s themed arcade room? Now, what's prevented me, and maybe you guys can help me, what's prevented me from really decorating the arcade room, the room that I'm basically in. So it's like this part, this 4 feet area is kind of a little YouTube area. And then the rest of it's a game room. And then there's like more cabinets over there that you can't see. But I can move my camera a little bit if you want to see it. There's like all this stuff over here. There's like a Legends. There's other one. I got that TV over there and then whatever. A lot of stuff. That's my room. Nothing's on the wall because I don't know why, but I have a problem. Maybe this is a problem that you share and you can understand. But I've recently come, literally when I saw the topic that Bob wanted to talk about game rooms, I was like, I know my problem. I don't like hanging things on the wall. Like, I don't know why. I like don't want to hang things on walls. It's something about like, I'm indecisive of where it should go. And putting a nail in the wall seems so permanent. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Can you help me? Like, this is me confessing that I have a problem with putting nails in walls. And in all of my 20s, well, not all of my 20s. What am I talking about? So I bought a house when I was like 18, 19. We sold it and then moved to California. And there's no way I could afford a house in California. So we lived in apartments. Then we lived in apartments. We lived in townhouses. So for a long time, I didn't live in places that I would stay permanently. Of course, now I own my home and I've owned it for a while. And I'm like, well, why don't I just hang up pictures everywhere? And so my wife's like, hey, we'll just hang up some pictures. So we've hung up some pictures, but a lot of them we've cheated. We're kind of like, it's leaning against the wall. And that's the way we like it. It's decorated to lean against the wall, mainly because I just feel nails are permanent and I need to get over it. If there's someone in the chat that knows what I'm talking about and can chime in and be like, this is all, you just think about it this way, right? And then I can fix that part of my brain. Anyway, so I keep on thinking decorating the game room, I should hang things on the wall. So I bought things that I can hang on the wall. I'll prove it. Hold on. I can't prove it. Anyway, I have those little Arcade1up Pac-Man tins. I thought it was right here, but I guess it's in another drawer. And I was going to hang those on the wall. And then I bought some light up marquees. So then I have the light up marquees have replaced, the light up marquee here. I have the original. Look, I can pinch you. I can pinch you. So I have the original here. I was going to hang that on the wall, up here. And then I have the light up marquee for this 12-in-1, and I was going to replace that with a light up and then put it over there. Also, some of these cabinets I've thought about replacing. This is the Final Fight. This is the 12-in-1. Let's see. Then I have Marvel, and then I have Pac-Man. I'd love to actually replace the 40th with the 12-in-1. Why? Because my daughter is all she liked the yellow better than the 40th anniversary, and the 12-in-1 is yellow, and it has more games on it, but then that means I have to sell it, and when it comes to selling the arcade. So now I have two problems. I don't want to hang things on the wall, and I don't want to sell my cabinets because I'm lazy. So I think I'm lazy, and that's my problem. So I'm not a good person for advice on how to decorate a game room. That's where you come in. Let's see in the chat what you guys got. Also, we might be swapping topics here. It says, Justin's, I have a PXN arcade stick and my laptop with F13 USB wired controller. And I think earlier he was talking about, is that a Cruis'n Exotica emulation spec or something like that? Okay. I'll come back and I'll look at that chat. Looks like it's a little different topic. So let's see. we are looking. Okay, so random my game room, 5 Arcade1ups, cocktail table, arcade cabinet, golden tea, and WWF Superstars. Here we go, Lori with. I bet we can trust Lori. She's not going to do us wrong. Okay, so she has a lot of vintage 80s toys in her room. Okay, so we have another person that's like, go with the 80s theme. All right, plus the Arcade1up light up Pac-Man sign, and the light up Moe's Tavern sign, and light up time circuit board from Back to the Future, plus a disco light. Come on, Bob, talk to Lori. Lori's your girl. She's going to tell you how to decorate your game room. All right, this is good. Let's see. Brad saying, dude, just put nails in all of them. All of them walls. Just get over it. I know, right? My wife and I have talked about, like, I don't know. So recently we're like, we're probably not going to move anytime soon. 10 years. So like, okay, if we're not going to move to 10 years, maybe I should put my PlayChoice 10 down in my basement. Okay. But then, like, I don't know. Recently we were like, what if we moved to Florida? We were just like, what, you know, we live in Iowa right now. What if we moved to Florida? And we're kind of thinking, like, maybe eventually we might move to Florida, because I work for let's say I work for a company that would allow me to be able to go to a really cool place all the time in Orlando. Those benefits are sounding really, really, I just gave it away, right? Anyway, so that would be cool, right? Like, if you live that close and you could just, like, go anytime you wanted, you would, right? Anyway, and so now I'm all like, maybe I shouldn't put holes in the wall, because I don't know if I'll live here forever. I'm insane. Oh. 3M command strips, not permanent. Okay. Ohio Red Cannon. I don't think we've talked before, but I already love you. Yeah. Everyone's like, command strips. Command strips. Oh my God, you guys are awesome. Like, I've seen them, but I never really thought about buying them. Are they good? Like, if I'm decisive, right? If I put them on the wall and I'm all like, no, it needs to move 2 inches. It needs to move a foot. Like, I'm decorating my game room, or I'm just putting family pictures on the wall. This is all I needed to know, is just get the 3M command strips. I'm an idiot. Okay, Vic Vicious, going back. 80s toys, cartoons, movies, music. Best ever. Okay, so check this out. I made a video on YouTube like 2 years ago that's all like, okay, guys, I'm decorating my game room, and this is what I'm gonna buy. Check this out. Hold on, just 1 second, okay? All right, so check this out. So I was like, okay, check what's in the box. I did this whole unboxing video thing, and look, they're still in the package. So I bought this for my game room, right? Still haven't hung it up. So I got the one. This is 70s though, but that's okay. What about 80s? What's the other one? Do you guys know? Do you guys know what the other one is? Boom. Come on. I got the movie poster ready to go. It's in the closet for like 2 years because I'm all like, I don't know where to put it. Anyway, thank you for the command strip ideas. I really appreciate it. All right, let's see. Have you ever driven a nail into a wall that punctured a water line? That is terrible. Okay, now I'm never putting nails in my walls ever. Okay, wait. No, I will, because I'll be like, is it possible there's a water line there? No. Okay, I'm going to do it. How about using pull-up hooks? Okay. So the 3M command strips, that's where we're going. I'm sorry, Bob. We're supposed to be talking about how you can decorate your game room. And we're just talking about the logistics of decorating your game room. So what have we learned so far? If you want to decorate your game room, you start with 3M strips. That way, this is really good advice. So think this through, right? How many Arcade1up cabinets do you have right now? Maybe you have 3, right? And so you're like, there you go. I'm going to put my 3 arcade cabinets against this wall. And then above it, I'm going to put 3 movie posters, right? It's going to be nice and centered in a line. And then all of a sudden, a new Pac-Man comes out, and you're like, whoa, Uncle Pac-Man came out. I already have Mr. Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man, but now I need Uncle and Aunt Pac-Man. Those don't exist, but they do in my illustration. So then you got 5 cabinets, right? You got the whole family, but you only have 3 movie posters. And then you're like, okay, I got to buy a couple more movie posters, but now I got to get those all centered and aligned, right? You can't have like weird margins and paddings between these that were equal and exact measurements to the 3 cabinets you have. Now you have 5 cabinets, and so it doesn't equalize, and then you're OCD and you go crazy. And that is where the 3M strip evidently will help you. Okay, so that's the key. Start with that. All right, so see, Tad's like, listen, some of my art is so large, I don't trust nails, and I use, French cleat screws to the wall. I don't know what that is, but that sounds crazy. Cool, you know. And Lori forgot to mention she has asteroid night lights, you know, which is really cool because when you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was thinking about this. So if you woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you ate from the refrigerator in the morning, is it technically breakfast that you're having? Because breakfast means you're breaking fast, right? You're like went on a fast while you're sleeping. And in the morning, you're going to break that fast and eat. So you eat breakfast. But if you wake up in the middle of the night, you already broke fast. So you can't have breakfast. You have, I'm going to eat in the morning, even though I ate in the middle of the night. You have to call it that. Okay, anyway. Yeah, I've bought several stud finders because this is another thing where I'm like, okay, I'm going to hang something and it needs to go into a stud, and I want to hang something and it shouldn't go into a stud, and then I lose my stud finder and then I buy another one. And that's my embarrassing thing about stud finders. Okay. So, hey, Bob's like, look, we got some good ideas rolling in, so that's good. Garage Gamer's like, just use a nail. We'll just use a nail, okay? Jamie's like, dude, I'm like you. I don't like putting nails in the wall, and I'm not going anywhere except the grave. See, Jamie, we're alike. You know, what's that old villain line? He's all like, you and I, we're not so different than you think. And then there's a whole bunch of numbers. I have no clue what that means. Is this someone asked how many arcade cabinets do you have? And Pontiac is like 6. Denny's like 9. No, wait. Someone's like, hey, how many children do you have? Pontiac's like, I have 6 children. Denny's like, I have 9 children. Bob's like, dude, I have 5 children. Venomous is like, no, I have 6. Garage Gamer's like, I have 3 children. They're called Arcade1ups. Let's see. Danielle has 1. Okay. Always Pac-Man. We're going to try to catch up with the chat here. Let's see, right. See, Deputy Van Halen's got it all figured out. He says 100 years from now, none of it's going to matter. See, just go ahead and put nails in there, right? Okay, so. Yeah, Paul's like, wait, I know what you're talking about. I'm OCD. What are we talking about? Yeah. Vic is all like, dude, you got 6, you got 9, you got 5, you got 1. Vic's got 17 1-ups so far. Now, Vic, are those arcades, or are they like you counting countercades? Because I don't think countercades should count. Are you wallcades don't count either? Like they don't count. Like 17 1-ups, only the 3/4 count. In case you didn't know, because otherwise, where do you stop? You're like, hey, look, I got this HDMI one. Look, I bought an arcade 1-up. I think anyway. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so Bob got you checked off. I'm going to hit a little heart next to your comment where you said, let's talk about game rooms. I hope that was helpful. Real quick on the game rooms, things that I've seen in the community that I've really liked are like RGB lights. I did buy an RGB light. There's some behind the arcades, and when we play down here, sometimes I turn those on. Kind of adds a really cool ambiance. Let's see. Functionality is probably the most important thing for me. So I at one time upstairs, but I've moved it, and I'm going to be moving around some things soon. I'm going to, I got the Polymega coming eventually, sometime in the next 10 years, I'll get a Polymega. But until then, I have a lot of consoles, right? So Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and usually those variants that have really high quality RGB out. Some of them are HDMI modded, not with zero lag, zero lag HDMI modifications. And so I have like a setup where I can have, let's see, pretty high quality. I use the Analog NT Mini for NES and things of that nature. I got a Super NT, but I also have the original ones. I got the NES RGB or the NES HDMI. I got the Super Nintendo with an RGB mod out to like a RetroTink or to an OSSC, HDMI to like an HDMI switch, and then I have an N64 that's RGB modded. And those three, not so much the Nintendo 64, but the Nintendo and Super Nintendo, I do play those a lot. So I'm not just into technology, but and here's something that surprised me while we're talking about that. I play Nintendo, the original Nintendo, way more than you probably think that I do. Way more than I thought I ever would. Like when I got back into retro gaming, I thought my favorite console was the Super Nintendo. And I started watching a lot of RetroRGB content because his favorite console was also Super Nintendo. And we actually became friends. I went out to New York and I met up with him, hung out with him. I helped him rebuild his website, RetroRGB.com. Tried to give as much contribution as I could to everything that he was doing because I really believed in it. He helped out me a lot with YouTube and setup and how to make good content. I mean, I try. Sometimes I don't put a lot of effort into it, but I love that guy. He really helped me out a lot. But then over time, I was getting into the modding and all those various things. I find myself playing way more Nintendo games than Super Nintendo game. Like all my favorite games are Nintendo games, actually. Like if you were to ask me what's your favorite games, without noticing it, I'm actually naming more Nintendo games. And then I started collecting Nintendo and Super Nintendo games, but I have a way bigger collection it's over 100 games. And I don't have like a lot of games, but it's over 100 for Nintendo and only like 30 for Super Nintendo. And what I was doing was buying the must-have games that I remember playing as a kid. And I actually don't have very many Super Nintendo as the Nintendo, and Nintendo 64 is really slim. Like I only remember playing like 5 games on that system. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Maybe you can talk about do you share similarities in that where it's like on paper, like if someone were to ask you what's your favorite console, I'm going to say Super Nintendo, but what games do I play a lot of? It's Nintendo, which is why I ended up buying a PlayChoice 10 because I realized that was also an arcade that I played a lot. And I did play the Super Nintendo kiosk. That's the closest thing to like an arcade Super Nintendo that I played, which is weird to even say. But I played the PlayChoice 10 a ton because the Walmart across the street had it. And so I played those Nintendo games a lot, and I ended up picking one up. And I really, really like having that piece of history like in my home. Like it actually sat somewhere. I wish I could know the history. That'd be really cool. Like where was it? Where has it been? In the last 30 years, where is it gone? Anyway. Yeah, Tim D. If you're the Nintendo guy, and I never thought that. I never really thought I was that much into Nintendo. But then I started thinking about it. I started playing the original Nintendo in 1986, and I got my own in like 87, I want to say. And a real quick story on that, like what's cool about the Nintendo is the top loader is way better. If you guys have ever checked out, do you guys know what I'm talking about? Do you guys want to talk about Nintendo just for a second? Old 90 or old 80s Nintendo. So the Nintendo top loader, hit 1 if you know what I'm talking about, this Nintendo top loader, right? Hit 0 if you're like, I don't even know what a top loader is. Like what's a top loader? So the Nintendo top loader looks like this. I have a couple right here. So this is one that I have on my bench here, my modding bench. Yeah, you guys know. Got a lot of ones. Hollywood doesn't know. So real quick, so this is do I have the shell? I don't know if I have the shell. Anyway, so so this is the inside. This has been modded or whatever. So this is the inside. The circuit board is nice and tight. It's nice and bright and tight. Anyway, the only problem is the original only has this is, what is this? Yeah, so this is actually a coaxial out, right? Because this is the original Nintendo. Now, the Famicom version of this had an AV out, like they call it the AV Famicom. But you can mod this one and add HDMI. And so that's what this mod is. What's nice about this console is the cartridges load from the top. Now, think of every Nintendo that's ever came out other than the first one. They all load from the top. Do you know why? Because that's how it's done. They actually screwed up on the first one. You know, they were going for that VCR look, right? If you don't know the story, there's some good videos out there. I think Gaming Historian has one on there that's really good. So they were going for the VCR look. They were trying to confuse the market and make people think that it's an entertainment system. It's not a video game system because of the crash. But then a lot of people within a year or two, they're like, oh yeah, it's a video game system. And then, but the problem is, and this is why I'm into Nintendo, check this out. So you stick the game into the Nintendo slot and you have to push it down, right? Remember, you had to blow on it and all that stuff to get it to work. You don't have to do that with the top loader. That thing was $50 and came out after the Super Nintendo in the mid 90s. It's a better unit, but in '85 they went with this one that slides and then doesn't have a very good connection, right? So that stinks. But why is this interesting, and what does that have to do with me playing a Nintendo? Well, the reason why I got a Nintendo in I think it was early '87 or late '86, so not far after it came out, a friend of mine, he couldn't play his games anymore. So his dad bought him a new one. And then the buddy of mine gave me his broken Nintendo. Okay. So here it is. I got a free Nintendo and I think Mario and Duck Hunt, but it doesn't work. So I go to my dad, who's a mechanic, and I said, hey, Dad, how do I fix this Nintendo? And he goes, let me look at it. And so he looks at the cartridge and he goes, that's an edge connector. And he starts to explain to me that he knows how to fix this Nintendo because there's similar hardware on cars. And so he goes, what you got to do is get some rubbing alcohol in a Q-tip, and on all the games that you have, you need to clean it, right? Then what you're going to need to do is take the Nintendo apart, and there's going to be a piece in there that it's going to connect to. They're probably bent, the little metal pieces. And he figured it out. Like, this is 80s. There's no internet, right? Like, my dad's like, oh, the cartridge slides in like that. It's probably putting pressure on those pins. He's like, get in there. And I can't remember what he gave me, like a paper clip or something. And he's like, bend each one down. And then you need to get in there and clean every single pin in the slot. So my dad goes to work or whatever. He's working on cars. And I get a screwdriver out. I take the whole thing apart. I remember it. I was like 7 or 8 years old. And I'm like, thinking that I'm going to get shocked inside there. Like, electricity is going to shock me, but no, of course not. So I take it all apart. I clean it, and I bend each piece, meticulous, just going through. It takes me like all day, right? Put it back in together, stick the game in, works perfect. And then it continued to work perfect for years and years and years. And about a year ago, I talked to my dad on the phone. And, he's 70. He doesn't remember that conversation. Doesn't remember it all. I was like, do you remember us having a Nintendo? He's like, no. Nintendo? No, I don't really remember that. I was like, so I started explaining cartridges. And, like, I had the system and it broke and it didn't work. And literally my dad started repeating exactly what he said 30 years ago. And he goes, oh, I know what would fix it. So what you need to do is you take he's like, get some rubbing alcohol. He starts explaining. I'm like, I know, Dad. You told me that when I was like 6. Anyway, so I was, I guess, an early adopter maybe of the original Nintendo, and I played it like crazy all the way up till like 92, 93 when I got a Super Nintendo. But then from Super Nintendo 93, 94, 95, I think I only played the Super Nintendo for like 2 or 3 years. So there's like this big 5, 6, I don't know, 8 years of playing the original Nintendo and going through all those games and renting them from the rental stores and having late fees, and then, coming home after school and my parents not giving me a key to the house, so I have to break into my own house because I want to play the Nintendo games. And then I'm like 13 with a Super Nintendo, and I play all the hits, right? Pilot Wings, Super Mario World. I beat all those games. Zelda, probably about 30 other games that I can't rattle off the top of my head. And then that was it. My core video game playing a lot every single day was over. So if you take that percentage, most of it was actually Nintendo. And so, yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right. So let's see what's going on in the chat. Sorry for the long rant. Let's see. So we got a whole bunch of 1s and 0s from Super Leaf says, Justin, since you have a PlayChoice 10, did you add the NES adapter to play NES games on the cabinet? So real quick story. I'll probably cover it later on YouTube, the PlayChoice 10, but I'll give you the highlights. So I bought a PlayChoice 10. It came with 4 games. I now have all 10 slots filled. I bought games like Mario 1, 3, Punch-Out. Learned something about Punch-Out I didn't know on the PlayChoice. I got I'll tell you about that real quick. I got the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Let me see if I can get some visuals going. So if you don't know about a PlayChoice, let's talk about PlayChoice real quick. So, okay, I just threw up some Google images here. So the PlayChoice is an arcade cabinet made by Nintendo. It has 10 games. There's 2 major versions. There's this one that has 2 screens, and there's one that has 1 screen. There's other variations, but those are the primary differences between the different ones. I have a single screen. What's in common is the system takes cartridges, right? So they're not Nintendo cartridges. They're slightly different. And they're kind of expensive. Every game is about $100 right now. And what's really cool, let me see if I can pull up what the cartridges look like. Yeah, here's a perfect. So check this out. So the PlayChoice takes these cartridges. It's kind of like, if you're familiar with like a Neo Geo has cartridges. So the PlayChoice has these little slots. And so notice something here. So this is a random picture on the internet of a Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. So you can tell it's Mike Tyson's Punch-Out because it says, let's see if I can, I'm going to some random website. I don't know what it'll look like. Okay. I don't know what it's going to, okay, check it out. So here's a Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. What's this? Does anyone in the chat know what this is and why it's there? Let's see if anyone can figure this out. And when I got the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, I saw this little silver thing and immediately went, no way. No way. That's right, Willie. It's a battery. Tim D, it's a battery. Why would a Nintendo cartridge have a battery? Think about Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. When you go to Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, how do you get directly to Mike Tyson? What do? You have to type in a code. I bet someone in this chat can even type in the code to get to Mike Tyson, right? So that's right, Wolfenose. The batteries for a high score. And I was like, that's cool. That's really cool. I did not know the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for PlayChoice saves high scores. That's really cool because the Nintendo one didn't do that. So I start playing it and I get probably to, I don't know, about King Hippo or so, like 5 to 10 levels into it. And as I go, it's tracking my score and it keeps on showing me this. Is it called an interstitial? I think. I don't know. This screen in between segues from one level to another. And here's how you're ranking against the other high scores. And then it's like, press A to continue. I was like, that's cool. That's really, really cool. So then you got to put in your name. I put in my initials or whatever, and I leave, and I turn it on later, and there it is. So I'm going to, before I get further on it, and I've done this before with my daughter. It was really cool. I took all my original Nintendo games, the Nintendo ones, not PlayChoice, and I identified which ones have batteries. And I had my daughter, she was about 7 at the time. I gave her a job, like I paid her to do this. I said, I will pay you money that you can use for toys. And she talked about how much she wanted and all this. And she opened up every single Nintendo game that I owned that has a battery and tested to see with a little, voltage meter if the battery was dying. And if the battery was low, she would replace the battery. And then she had an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah, she's like 7, but she could learn, she could read pretty early. Hold on, let me think. It was 4 years ago is when we first moved to this house. So she's 12 now. So it was 8. She's 8 years old. Gave her a computer, Excel spreadsheet. She wrote down the game, if it had a battery, what the voltage levels were, and I had what the voltage level tolerance should be to replace it. And then she documented whether she replaced the batteries. So, of course, I coached her through the first 2 or 3, right? And once I saw that she did amazing. Like if you get your child, she's really good at patience, concentration. It's something that we taught her at a very, very young age. And so you can give her a project like that and she'll just zone in and do it and love it. And then like I paid her to do that. Like I'm going to, I literally was all like, someone's got to do it. Like I don't want to do it. It's like it's going to take me forever, but she could do it. And then she wants to buy toys, so I'll kind of make it this thing. And she like later told me, she was like, I would have done it for free because that was awesome. And to this day, she every now and then goes, remember that time that you had me replace the batteries on all my Nintendos, the Nintendo cartridges? I was like, yeah. She's like, that was a lot of fun. She said this like maybe a month ago. She's like, we should do more projects like that. I was like, okay, let's do that. Anyway, so again, Mike Tyson's Punch Out saves the scores on the PlayChoice 10, and that's really cool. So I want to get into that. I was like, man, what other games for PlayChoice has a battery where the alternate version for the original Nintendo doesn't have a battery? And what is that battery feature? Is it save progress or is it save your score? And I kind of am interested in that now. So, and I couldn't really find like a central location on the internet that would like spelled all that out. I did find a pretty good website that'll list all of the PlayChoice games that you can get. It's not very many. And there's, what is it, like 20 some first party, and then there's like 39 third party. And then I'll tell you a little bit about, so I started buying some of the games on eBay. And if you guys know better places to buy PlayChoice 10 games, let me know. So PlayChoice games, and I kind of decided to I spent a couple $100 on buying some games. I'll give you an idea. I'm going to share screen again, kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about here, right? So you own a PlayChoice, you want to buy games for it, right? So let me explain to you what I learned pretty quick. That I was like, oh, I gotta figure this out, right? If you go on eBay, you're going to get a whole list of games that never existed. Okay? So you have to ask yourself, are you going to collect games that are reproductions? I mean, like PlayChoice 10. So you go, and I'm not trying to diss any sellers on eBay in any way. There's an eBayer, is that a thing? That sells, and all of the messages start with this. It says Super Mario Brothers 2 is never available for the PlayChoice 10. So thank you. This was really important. This seller, right up front, the first sentence, he's like, hey, this was never available for the PlayChoice 10. This cart was designed to work with like these all BIOS models. So I started looking into that. There was a time, I guess, you could play these. You had to modify the factory BIOS to be able to play these alternate versions of the games, to be able to play, essentially different ROMs. That seemed to have gone away now. Anyway, so boom, $114. That's basically a clone, right? So I was like, I don't know if I want to buy clones, right? Then there's toppers. Toppers are expensive. So Nintendo would sell the arcade owner these cartridges, and then these toppers would go on top to advertise some of the top games that are on in that system. You could collect those. Those are expensive. So then there's the NES Game Link. And I did buy this. And this is a very long way. Let's see. I see Steve is saying, Justin, please. Let's see. Where's that? Justin, please reply to Vic's questions. Let me see what Vic is saying. Vic. Okay, we'll come back to that in just a minute. Let me just finish this thing real quick. So, PlayChoice 10 Game Link. So I bought one of these. I reached out to him. He has a website. It's like pc10.com or something like that. And he sells these direct for like $120 or so. And it allows you to plug in an NES cartridge to the PlayChoice 10 and play an NES game on the PlayChoice 10. It's cool that that's available. So I thought to myself, should I be collecting and spending hundreds of dollars on some of these PlayChoice games that are, first of all, tons of them that are on here are not real. You know, like, it would be really cool to play, think about it, play Galaga, play Pac-Man, play some big arcade hits, the NES port version on the PlayChoice 10. Now, you might say, no, what are you talking about? The NES ports were not good. But from a PlayChoice 10 point of view, that's a cool game to have on a PlayChoice 10. Like, go play Donkey Kong. Wait, can we get Donkey Kong, right? Can we play Mario? Sure. You know, and there's a lot of first party or third party. I have Contra, another game, awesome to play on the PlayChoice 10, playing the Contra game. Even the 30 lives, the, you know, up, down, left, right, totally works. A great game, fun. CRT, no lag, looks great. Like I just told you, I own 130 some games. Am I going to buy all those games again? I was into it for a little bit. I probably spent like $700 to $1,000 on buying games. And I told my wife, I think I'm going to collect all PlayChoice games. It's going to take me years, but every month I'll save a little bit of money and I'll put it aside and I'll see if I can get a deal. I got Russian Attack for $60. Okay. Can I get more games like that for $60? You know, can I find people in the community that like has them? So I found this one guy that has 2 sets of every game for the PlayChoice, 2 sets, and he does plan on selling them. I was like, okay, like maybe I'll buy a couple off you, you know? And then I started thinking, or I could just buy the Game Link and connect a power pack to it and then just make a ROM set that's exactly what I want for the PlayChoice. And I don't feel guilty at all because I literally own all those games. Like, I don't own the arcade version, but like it's the same ROM, right? Like, that's even if you care about, like, you know, piracy or not. But like I could, like, this is an area where it's like I'm just gonna spend money on hardware, right? Anyway, so it's weird. Okay, so that's it for the PlayChoice 10. We can talk more about that at another time, but it looks like some people. I'll just break the ice. Justin, please, can we get the fans some explanation of what's going on with the 1UP Weekly? So there's no real drama or anything like that. Maybe some people are thinking about that. We did a live stream, or Ralph did a coffee talk. I guess we together never formally said, hey, we're taking a break. But Ralph did on a coffee talk the Monday after, like literally Sunday. There was a Sunday show. And afterwards, we were really like burned out. And so Ralph and I had a conversation. We're like, we want to change what 1UP Weekly is. We don't like the direction it's going, so we want to change it. We both agree on that. Our relationship's solid. We're both super busy, but we talk to each other about every other day, text each other, call each other. So it's weird. So 1UP Weekly is kind of like we're like best friends, right? So we have conversations constantly, and when we go on 1UP Weekly, That's like just like part of our relationship almost, if that makes any sense. And so our relationship hasn't changed. It's just that thing that we share with you guys isn't happening as often. And so we took, what are we, like 2 weeks on it? And so both Ralph and I recently, I don't want to speak for him. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but we took a break from YouTube and we're really enjoying life without any YouTube pressure. So that gave us a little bit of perspective. And the only thing that's really pulling us to do more One Up Weeklies is someone saying, hey, fans, like, can you make more One Up Weekly content? And of course, Ralph is doing some really cool stuff with Arcade Pickers. And so he's pivoting his content to be this more content like Arcade Pickers, where he invests a lot of time and money to build an episode that everyone will enjoy. And, you know, instead of making shorter videos, you know, throughout the month, he kind of, you know, makes these big Arcade Pickers that he's partnered with Corey. And right when that was happening, I told him, I was like, this is a good time. I literally watched the preview of Arcade Pickers. Like, I saw some of the content. I'm like, dude, you need to focus on this. That's cooler than anything we could do together. And he disagreed. He was like, no, Justin, I love you. And I'm like, yeah. That's all nice and fancy, whatever. That stuff's cool. The Arcade Picker is cool. If I lived in Arizona, I would totally like help you with that. And at this point, I'm like, you know, a sounding board maybe for Ralph. But that's a coincidence. Like, there's no, like, we did a whole bunch of shows with John D. And John D was like, hey, let's do another show. Hey, let's do another show. Hey, let's do another show. And we never even ever wanted to do 2 shows in a row with John. Like, that was like, we were always like, even in the beginning, we're like, we're going to cover Arcade1up, but then we also want to cover this topic. So we're going to pace it. And CES was weird because, you know, in 2020, we did CES together and we weren't planning on covering Arcade1up the way we did for CES 2021. But I reached out to Ralph and said, hey, if we were all together in Vegas, we would be spending all this time doing Arcade1up coverage for CES, but we can't. And so I was reaching out to John. He was reaching out to John and saying, hey, do you want to do like a whole bunch of CES coverage together? We'll just do it remotely because we can't all be together. And he's like, yeah. And then for somehow, like, John just was on the show like way too much. And the last 2 shows, like the relationship with Scott, the relationship with John is all great. Like, we've had a call and we've all talked. We've communicated with each other. Everything's good, right? Like, there was actually like kind of like apologies that went back and forth both ways. And I don't want to get into drama. Like, maybe this doesn't make sense to you because you guys don't know the whole story. But basically, it got to the point where we're like, we made plans to make a podcast episode that we canceled for Arcade1up. And then we made more plans to have another topic where Ralph and I were like, we're going to cover this, and we're going to cover this, and this is going to be the show, and this is what we're going to do. And then Arcade1up's like, hey, could we do another show with you? And for years, it's always been, we say, hey, John, we'd like to do something with you. But then they started asking us. And once they started asking us, and then we said yes, more people got involved, and more people were like writing the content. And they weren't telling us what we're going to say, but like what John was going to say was very like, you know, these are the things that he can say and can't say. That's right. Like we kept on saying early on, we're not the Arcade1up Weekly. And literally we became the Arcade1up Weekly. And we were like, nope, we're not the Arcade1up Weekly. We're not going to do this anymore. We'll still do One Up Weekly, but we need a palate cleanser. We're not going to do any shows for a while. And then we'll come back. And when we come back, we're coming back next Saturday, which is an arcade auction. That's our content. You guys know it's our content. We've always done arcade auction. It's not about Arcade1up. So let's do that show. And so we just needed to like reset And then I think John D and Scott Baccarat, they figured it out because we were like kind of not talking to them, and they reached out and were like, and they literally said, "Hey, we observed what just happened and we figured it out. We're sorry. We were like, you know." So Don, there was so any thoughts on changing the name of the show? We did have that conversation. So Ralph and I were like, okay, here's the story. So the story is basically that when we came up with the name One Up Weekly, we were at CES 2020, and Ralph was driving home, and we're on the phone, and I was still staying because my flight was later, and we were talking about, let's make this podcast thing a thing, right? And so we wanted to call it. Ralph was like, let's call it the One Up Podcast, and he was talking about like arcades, One Up, that type of thing. And we're like, whoa, that's interesting because Arcade1up, like maybe we get some search engine optimization by having the letter 1UP in it, and people will come and we will talk about Arcade1up, but we'll also talk about other subjects and they'll stay for the other subjects and, you know, things like that. And so there was a talk about that. And then we're like, well, I said, no, we can't call it the arcade. We can't call it the 1UP Podcast because there's this guy that actually has the 1UP Podcast. And I met him. Like, I know the guy that runs the 1UP Podcast. And if I made the 1UP Podcast and he sees it's me, he'll be like, dude, you took my name. And I'll be like, yeah, so we can't do that. So then I was like, hey, Retro Ralph, there's an RR. Console Kits, it's a k, you know, that's why it sounds good. It has this repetition in it. I was like, so what has a w sound? And Ralph said, 1UP Weekly has a we. And I said, we can't call it 1UP Weekly because then people will like misspell it and make fun of us. They'll be like 1UP Weekly with an A. Like, you guys are weak. And he's like, that's stupid. So we called it 1UP Weekly. And then right away we were like, hey, we're 1UP Weekly, but we're not the arcade 1UP Weekly. And literally, we basically got bashed constantly. Like, you're the arcade 1UP Weekly. And we're like, we're not the arcade 1UP Weekly. We're the 1UP Weekly. Like, they're like, no, your logo looks like Arcade 1UP. We're like, no. If you want to be honest, like Mason, who's in the chat, by the way, designed our logo. I don't know if he's still here. And we told Mason, we said, the 1UP bar in Denver has a really cool logo. If you want to be inspired by anything, make it look similar to the 1UP bar logo. Anyway, Steve has a super chat. He goes, you guys have an amazing dynamic and your friendship is awesome. Please make more 1UP Weekly or something similar with you together. You guys rock. So we really appreciate the super chat. Very good point. Yeah, we do like what we've put together. So Brad, it's not like the Beatles breaking up. So we just took a break. I mean, I guess I'm explaining why there is a break, but the break isn't permanent. So anyway, about the name, we talked about changing the name because I was like, well, maybe we should change the name so then we can separate ourselves from Arcade1up so people don't think we're the Arcade1up Weekly. So we'd have a completely different name, but it kind of stinks because everyone, like, if you go on Twitter or Facebook or all these different social media, like, people talk about the show as the 1UP Weekly, right? Like, it's just, there's a name association for what Ralph and I do. And every now and then you'll see someone say like, oh, I saw that on Ralph's show, you know, but more often it's, I watched that on the 1UP Weekly. And so if we change the name, I literally told Ralph, I don't like the idea of changing the name because I remember this old marketing thing where like Tropicana changed their logo from an orange and a straw to like an orange, and it, like, no one bought Tropicana for like months because the brand association, they're like, what the heck is this? I was like, if we were going to change our name, we might as well like start a new channel. I mean, like, we have an audience of subscribers, but like changing the name might be weird. So what are you going to change it to? And so we had the idea of changing the logo. We were thinking about changing the logo to a coin door, where it's like the red glow of a coin door, and it would say 1UP, and then instead of insert coin, it'd say weekly. So then it's associated with arcades more than like the logo looks similar to Arcade1up. But then I was like, dude, if we want to like not cover 1UP and get people to stop saying we're the Arcade1up weekly, let's just not cover that content as much. Like only cover it when we want to cover it, not cover it when people are saying they want us to cover it. You know, and so that's kind of where we landed. It was like, we don't really need to change the name. We just like prove by our actions that this is the content we actually want to cover. Jamie, how about the Toy Shark Weekly? It's pretty good. Yeah, so here's Mason. Everyone give one for Mason. So Mason is the designer, and he's the editor for Arcade Pickers as well. He's gonna bring it for episode 2, and of course the performances between Corey and Ralph are probably gonna be amazing. But he end to end helped produce the content. I know it's gonna be amazing. Episode 2 is gonna like blow away episode 1 because Mason is amazing. Follow him on TikTok if you want to hang out with him. Let's see. So we covered that. So I don't know. So yeah, Hobby Cans. I think he's referring to what we're talking about. So Don, you talked about changing the name. John D would draw other people that didn't regularly watch the show. Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of cool stuff with John, and we did some stuff with John that wasn't so cool. And so we're like, hey, Shotgun Sean. Let's see. Tom Petty had the last great halftime show. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, Walter. So that's the plan for this next show, is to do Guess the Price game with the auction. I had this idea. Dude, Mike, the new name on the next one weekly. That's good. So the other thing was we were thinking about not doing the show weekly. But on occasion. So it's the 1UP on occasion. I don't know, but then I don't know. Ralph and I were going back and forth. Like maybe we will do the content every week. We started talking about other content that we could cover that we got excited about that we haven't revealed in any way that we think would be really cool. We were thinking about making the shows shorter, like a 30-minute show or something like that. But we do it every week. And then there was like people complaining that we did the show on Friday, and I think I've said this a million times. Like we moved to Friday because I do have dog training on Sunday, and people were accusing us of like purposely moving it to Friday to compete with other podcasts. That's not true at all. It's fake news. Absolutely fake news. Like I don't know how to explain it a better way, but like we're sorry that our lives changed, that we had to change the timing, and then sometimes our shows go long and then it cut into some other YouTuber that has a show. And part of me wants to say like there's like 50,000 people on YouTube doing live streams right now. Like right now I'm conflicting with 50,000 people, but since there's a community of people that also have cross content, evidently we have to make sure our content, like, it's so weird. Like, isn't that weird? Like, am I an idiot for being aggressive and mean about this? Like, if we're ABC, like, we're not going to make content at the same time as like NBC does? Or is it because we're a small niche community and we all have to be friends? Nobody's friends, dude. No, nobody's friends. Nobody's friends. Except for Ralph and I. No, I'm sure there's friends out there, but as you probably know, there's certain content creators that don't get along. And I could go into that, but I don't want to be a drama show. There's a whole bunch of content creators that you probably think that are amazing that I've met in person that are jerks, complete jerks. And that's not an excuse or a reason to have content conflicting. I don't know what time their show is because I don't watch them, because I filtered them from my life, because that's how mean they were in person to me. Like almost cried mean. You can ask Ralph if you don't believe me. It was bad. It was really bad. someone I really looked up to. Like Bob, RetroRGB, as an example. Started communicating with him years ago. Super awesome guy. Anytime I need help, reach out to him. He's like, I'm there. I help him out. I've had beers with him. I met him in person. Just all of that. Just really, really cool guy. And he'll reach out to me out of the blue and be like, hey, I got this device. You want me to send it to you so you can play with it? I was like, cool. And he sent it to me. Like, the dude, like, literally sent me like a camera. He's like, here's this old camera that I have. It'll help you with your YouTube. I was like, dude, that's freaking awesome. Like, he's like, yeah, if you want to do some lag testing, it's really good for lag testing. Maybe you want to lag test your Arcade1ups. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. I'm like, help him out. He helps me out. And then there's other people you meet and then they run away. And they're like, bye. I'm like, wait, what? Why are you running away from me? Like, literally, like, I just want to shake your hand and say hello. And like, no, we're not going to talk. Never met the guy in real life. Never chatted with him. Runs away. I'm like, okay, I guess I said something mean or something. Anyway, whatever. I'm not going to talk about who it is, but stupid rant. Hobbyhand says, yes, but new viewers might not know that and assume you guys are somehow part of Arcade1up. I love variety. Too much companies can get a bit tiresome, in my opinions. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said before, we're still going to cover one-up. We're going to do one-up weekly. We're going to hopefully the things that you enjoy about one-up weekly is not just that we talk about Arcade1up. And that's what Ralph and I recently been talking, and I was like, we go through a lot of the comments in the one-up weekly, and people will say why they like the show. And when they mention they like the show, they said they really like the personality. They like the way we present, the topics that we cover. Sometimes we've done community posts where we're like, hey, what topics should we talk about? And they're like, dude, you can talk about whatever else. Just literally talk about whatever excites you, because there's probably something that you're working on or doing or buying or purchasing that if you find it interesting, I want to know about it, because I might buy that, or I might, want to get into that, or whatever it is. I was like, okay, we can just be us, right? I don't know, whatever. So if you only like one-up weekly because we talk about Arcade1up, it's funny because like tonight I wasn't even planning on talking about Arcade1up. And so I did a video, and it's like, this video that we're in right now, it's, will Arcade1up release Cruis'n World? So why did I make that content? I mean, I did a community post, and I asked, what do you guys want to talk about? And there was a lot of different community posts. And the one that like connected to me was Tim D. He's all like, hey, do you think they'll do a Cruis'n? I was like, oh, I could talk about that for about 7 minutes and give you my point of view on it. And so that's where it started. And, now we're just talking about whatever. Tim, I like the bands break up and go solo. Band names sell. What? Anyway. See, your average gamer is like, no, you don't need to change it. Yeah, so Vic Vicious, thanks for the explanation, Justin. I get it all now. But I miss you guys every week. Yeah, the last few weeks have been too quiet. Yeah, and so I hear you. I knew that the content that we want to cover, there's some timing related to it. So we're like, hey, let's just push it off till the next thing that we do together, Arcade1up. Sorry. See? There you go. Evidently, we are the Arcade1up Weekly, because I almost said it. The next time that we cover one-up weekly, it would be the auction. And then after that, we'll do some content. And so last week, I was like, well... And I wanted to take a break because I between, what was it, January and February, I was making content every other day. And so I was testing to see how much growth I would get if I made that much content. And then I did an evaluation. And then what I didn't think about is that was going to burn me out. And it did. So now I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to pace it better so I don't hit burnout. But I also have some topics related to Arcade1up that I want to talk about, especially, like, for example, like totally leaking everything that John D ever told me. Like, why not? Why not make like 30 videos on everything he's told me that they're working on the next year, and just and just basically every thumbnail is just like, screw you, John. No, that's just a joke. That's a joke. Anyway, no, I got all these other topics that I plan on in my game room or the PlayChoice 10, some other systems that I plan on getting and modding and working on that I want to work on and want to do personally, but I could turn into content as well. Basically, document what I plan on doing anyway, and I haven't done that in a while. Like, what I work on and then what I cover content on are like two separate things, and I want to merge those because it's kind of dumb to be like, hey, you guys want to talk about this topic, so I'm going to talk about that topic. I am interested in it too, and I think it's cool to talk about what if and do this and do that. But you know what I want to talk about is this project that I have working on this board right here for a buddy of mine that I haven't been talking about. Let's cover that. So that could be cool. It would be cool if you could somehow get Ralph's 15,000 subscribers to come over and subscribe to 1UP Weekly in Console Kits. He should be doing some shout outs to that's cool, but that doesn't work. Like, that's a really cool suggestion. Like, it makes sense, but like when he has 40,000 subscribers, and then there's only a certain percentage of them that will watch content, a certain percentage of them that will watch other content. And so I personally, like, I'm probably the worst YouTuber out there because I've told Ralph my philosophy is never spam, never promote, never tell anybody about your show. And you guys know that from 1UP Weekly and Console Kits. Ralph does that a lot. Ralph basically started not promoting his content when I told him I don't like promoting content at all. And the reason is because I really believe in the YouTube algorithm. I believe if your content is good, the YouTube algorithm will do a better job than you could ever do on promoting yourself. Ever. And if you start promoting yourself, you may get false views. You're getting views that you basically, what's it called? Like primed. Like, you primed those views. And then, but what you want to do as a YouTuber is alter your content, stay true to yourself, but alter your content so that it's interesting to other people. And there's one great way to measure that, and that is how successful that video was. When you published it, who the audience is, what type of content that you like. It's like a Venn diagram. There's the content that people watch. There's the content that you like to cover. And where those intersect, do that. Focus on that. Focus on that. And the problem with YouTube is if you want a ton of subscribers, you may have to go outside of that intersection. If you go outside of that intersection just for views and just for subscribers, you're going to gain a whole bunch of subscribers that don't actually like the content that you want to make. And then you will find yourself in a position that the only way you get views from this audience that you grabbed is if you make content that they want. And there's a whole bunch of dead channels out there. Like, literally, people talk about how they gain 40,000 subscribers and now they do videos and 5 people watch. And it's because they got burned out and they got to the point where they're like, I want to make content that I want to make. And then nobody watches that content. And the algorithm learns it super quick. The algorithm's like, yeah, you gathered a demographic that hates the titles of everything that you type now. And so, I don't know. I'm probably an idiot, but we've promoted 1UP Weekly through Twitter occasionally when John was doing a show. And that's about it. And so I've literally told Ralph, I don't want don't promote my content because if I get a flood of new people that become subscribers, Ralph's audience is spilling over to my channel. And then, now I got to perform for an audience that I don't understand. So I'd rather have slow growth. I mean, I think I not too bad. I got 5,000 subscribers. And I know a lot of them I came through my Star Wars video. And so I know, like, okay, there's the Star Wars Arcade1up crowd. It's like a large of them got that. And the other one is making short content. And so I love making short content. Of course, now I'm on a live stream more than an hour, but I really love making like really tight and concise 4 or 5 minute videos, right? And a lot of the audience that watches Console Kits likes that content. Do you know why? Because you subscribed because I made that content for you. And then you hit subscribe because I made a whole bunch of content that I like making. And then you hit subscribe. And then you got to know me. You have your own channel. Yeah. So, and maybe some of you learned about me through 1UP Weekly. That's fair. That's fair. There's probably a percentage of people out there that were watching Ralph and then watched Ralph on 1UP Weekly and then learned I'm a person and learned I had my own channel and then subscribed. And if that's you, cool, I guess. But my preference would be is you subscribe because you like the content that I make, not because I spammed you, not because I tricked you into watching my content because you kept on seeing my face over and over again on forums or on Twitter or other people. You watch 2 or 3 of my episodes, you're like, this guy makes content I enjoy. And then if you're the type of person that watches my content and you're like, this guy has a big nose and he's annoying and he keeps on saying the word okay, I'm going to go into the comments and start making fun of him. I hope you're not a person that subscribed. And I mentioned those because those are actual comments that I've received on YouTube. I haven't received them recently. I think there's this thing that when you start YouTube early on, you get a lot of hate. And then this is my theory, you get a lot of hate because your videos are being watched by YouTube's just like kind of like, well, video's doing okay, but I don't know how to connect him to an audience. I don't know Justin's demographic yet. I don't know it. So I'm going to send it to a whole bunch of these 14-year-olds. And the 14-year-olds are like, you're an idiot, boomer, or something like that. And I'll get those early on, got them all the time. I'm like, how old are you? You're like, 13. Like, okay, whatever. Why is the algorithm promoting me to people that I don't want the algorithm to promote my content to people that are going to dislike my content immediately, right? Like, that's not fun. Don't promote my content to people that aren't interested in my content. That's dumb. Like, imagine if you ran ads, right? You're like, okay, I have a video. I'm going to pay money to get my video to be presented to 100,000 people. And 1% of them will hit subscribe. Who are those people? Are they people that are not like into this content, but they hit subscribe because I like yelled at them to do it? That's why like recently in my videos, I'm like, if you're into home arcade, if you like Arcade1up, hit subscribe. Like, there's conditions to your subscription. I don't want you to subscribe if you're not into the topic that I'm talking about. Because you could hit subscribe if you want, but I'm not trying to gain subscribers that are subscribers that just watch and then never watch again. Like, I'd prefer that if I ever got to 10,000 subscribers, it's 10,000 subscribers that are really into the content that I like or that I make. Not because I begged them to hit subscribe. Anyway, that's a long rant, but that's just my philosophy. I've been saying that to Ralph forever. Like, this whole philosophy of like, it's just my view on YouTube. Let's see. Dominic says, Justin, I'll watch later. Doing bedtime with kids. Dude, bedtime with kids is super important. Missed you, dude. Can't wait to rewatch. Have a good night. Sounds good. Cool, man. Appreciate the support. All right, let me focus in on the chat a little bit more. Let's see. I see someone who agrees with my philosophy, so I'm going to read only his comments because another thing that people say negatively is that I delete comments. And I will tell you this right now. I have a philosophy on deleting comments. Some people will say, and I think some people that are even in the chat are like, this guy deletes comments. YouTube deletes some of your comments, okay? So when I go into YouTube, they'll be like, here's a list of comments that we have hidden from the public, right? And sometimes I'll like, I don't understand why you hid that. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, this guy is swearing about babies. Okay, no, deleted. Okay, here's spam. It's just like, come to this website that's clearly, nefarious. Like, delete, delete, delete. But those aren't comments that are like public, right? So I have deleted maybe 3 comments. And deleting comments, it's not about the content, it's not about your view, because I feel that if you comment on my video and you have an opinion, it deserves to sit on that video. But what I don't approve is, I'll give you a quick example. I did that video with my daughter, and the person said, "This is why I don't watch Star Wars anymore, because girls are into it." And actually, I'm paraphrasing. It was way worse. It was really bad. Like, I took a picture of it. It was pretty bad. And I was like, "You, sir, are saying something." Like, I'm not even doing it justice, because it was really bad. I deleted it because I was like, you're saying something negative towards my daughter and towards a gender that I don't agree with, and it should be deleted because it is offensive. And the way it was structured was not subjective. It wasn't, if you hold this view, if you hold that view. It was just flat out bad. And so I was like, so it's like basically like a discrimination against a people, or, that it's my channel, right? And so I do have the ability to delete any comment that I wish. I reserve that right. But if it's your opinion, I'll leave it. If you want to bash me, I probably won't delete it. If you say something stupid like, "You're ugly," I've deleted those, because it's like, what the hell? Like, this is weird. Why? Okay, I guess you don't find me attractive. Okay. This doesn't help anybody. And it's making me feel really bad about myself. This is dumb. My channel, I'm deleting this. But if it's something productive, positively or negative, about the subject matter, about the topic, yeah, we'll leave it there. Don't care. Okay, I don't know why I'm talking about this, but Ohio Red, he subbed because of the Smashing Pumpkins song? Dude, that's really cool. Yeah, so I do those live streams, and that last stream was the first one that I did that I left on. The Smashing Pumpkins songs, I usually delete those streams afterwards. Like, I go live and I do a whole bunch of copyright claim songs that, all the money that's made from it will go to the artist instead of me. But it's a lot of fun. We hang out, and usually when the show is over, I hide it. I make it private, because it was like, it was a moment, with with the live stream, and if someone's gonna rewatch it, it'll probably suck because you weren't there live, or it might have a lot of ads because I'm playing other songs, and I can't control where the ads go, so the ads literally could be like all over the place. But then this last time, I was like, I'll just leave it up, Not that I'm trying to gain like a whole bunch of subscribers through my music content, but I thought maybe I'd get one or something. And I did see the last stream, like I gained 1 or 2 subscribers, and Ohio Red Cannon is, thanks for the support. So the channel isn't all about Smashing Pumpkins or playing music, but on the 1UP Weekly, I do that with Retro Ralph, and sometimes we do a music intro or a music outro, which is kind of fun. So we got that. Dippity. Let's see. Michael says, Justin, ever tried any 99 Lives control decks? I like the way they space people out without being too big. I haven't tried it. The control decks that I have for the Arcade1up are from DIY Retro Arcade. I have a Pac-Man one and a Galaga one that has a different layout. Both of them have like a 16-1 in it. I really like. He has a trackball that's really good. But I haven't used any 99 Lives. Don't worry about the haters. More people are for you than against you. I think you got a great channel. Thanks. Appreciate it. All your daughter's friends were ragging on you online. Let's see. See, Willie's like, dude, your nose is fine. It's your face that's too small. Let's see. Just promote yourself on social media. Let us know when you're going to do a live stream. I got an update a few minutes ago on my phone, but you started to stream like 43 minutes ago. Okay, man. I'll tell you what I'll do. If you follow me on Twitter or Facebook, when I go live, I'll post, not in a channel, not in a group, but like just on my wall or whatever it's called. So if you get notifications through that way, maybe you'll get notifications. Deputy Van Halen said he found my channel when looking for videos on how to make a no-bake cheesecake. Yeah, that's right. Justin only wants 10,000 subs who have multiple Pac-Man cabs. That's right. That's the audience I'm looking for. If you're that audience, hit subscribe. Which reminds me, everyone check your subscription right now. Are you subscribed to Console Kits? Because maybe you're not, but you thought you were. And if you like this content, then subscribe. If you don't like this content, then why are you listening to me talk at all? It's just a waste of everybody's time, right? Justin, are you going to cover any of my topics? Oh, dude, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know why. Like, I just went off on a tangent. I'm really sorry. What was your topic? Super Leaf 64. He goes, John D previously said that we might get a Pac-Man Battle Royale cabinet in the future, but which versions would it be? The US or the more difficult and rare Japanese one? Okay, that's his first thought. Super Leaf said that on community post. So whatever this live stream is, I don't know. I might change the artwork later on it, but the idea is, I don't know. I had this fun idea where I'd make a community post that would kind of prime the live stream with good topics, because I think I have an audience big enough now that I literally could be like, hey, whatever topics that you want to talk about and that I want to talk about, where they intersect, let's talk about it, especially on a long live stream. Okay. I talked to John D about the Pug cabinet. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Arcade1up has these cabinets that are coming out. What is it? Is it called Pug? I don't even remember. It's like the Atari one. And I think we were on a live stream and some of it was off the live stream. Do they not have it now? Is it like in another section? It's Pong, right? So it's these Pong. I don't know. So Super Leaf's question is the Battle Royale. I said that idea to him on a Zoom call. He didn't really respond to it. And then I tried to get details from him. And he was like, can't remember what he said. I was basically explaining like the Battle Royale that's at like your Dave & Buster's. That's a cocktail table. 4 people, has the little, light around it. You should totally do that. You totally could do that. I think he was saying, I don't know what game he was going to do, but like it's like a no-brainer, right? And I think that is basically what he was saying. Like that's a no-brainer. And then the Pac-Man wall thing. I don't know if they're going to do it, but I think they could with a pedestal projector. I think that could work. Whether they're working on that, I don't know. But that would be an obvious thing they could build pretty cheap, right? Because all those parts are really cheap to do. And people in the community are building those things. What game it would be, I don't know. I bet they don't know anything about what you're talking about, Super Leaf 64, about the US version or the Japanese version. My guess is they're dumb and they're just going to do the US version. And it sounds like you know more information about this, so your new job is to explain to them that games like that have different difficult levels. And while you're getting the US version, you should Easter egg the Japanese version. You should do that. You should like reach out to him and to Arcade1up and let them know, like, hey, when you get a ROM for an arcade and you have personal knowledge that there's variations based on region, be like, hey, you should Easter egg the other region so I can play the Japanese hard version. And they probably would do that. Like literally, like they probably don't know that. And then if the right person said it at the right time, and then there's like a meeting where they all get together and someone like John goes, hey, by the way, this guy just told me about there's this Japanese version. Hey, Namco, do you have that? Namco's like, of course we do. We have the Japanese version. We have the US version. Which version do you want? By the way, that's what Namco sounds like. And they're like, yeah, that wouldn't cost anything extra in the royalty because it's basically the same game, just a regional like variation. And in fact, and Code Mystics is on the call, or whoever does their Pac-Man. They're like, hey, we can make that a dip switch setting, actually. If you say easy, it'll be the US version. You say hard, it'll be the Japanese version. I'm just making stuff up, but I don't see any reason why what I'm saying isn't accurate. Okay, the other thing he says, are they still going to release the micro consoles as a part of the entire mini console lineup that was canceled because of legality? Seriously, we all got the lame Mega Man and Pac-Man games that I can easily play on my phone instead of how much more interesting a Disney one. Okay, so because I have this nearby, I will show it. So this is the Pac-Man collection. So this PCB itself is HDMI out, USB in. It's pretty basic, dual core, I believe, if I remember correctly. This is the Rockchip 3032. I think this is essentially the basis for a lot of machines they can make. Probably even the little dongle that they're making, you know, with the big Pac-Man joystick or Atari joystick. It's probably made from the same like line of these. Like this is what you would plug into the TV or something hardware similar to that. So although the whole thing, and John, this is one of the things that upset me about that last show. He didn't say it correctly. He didn't say it. I don't know. He just slipped on his wording. But here's my understanding. If I worked for Arcade1up, this is what I would have said. Hey, community, you're really smart. And I want to go ahead and let you in on something insight into Arcade1up. So these came out. And it was never our intention to allow people to sideload games on them. That breaks our core values at our company. It was a mistake. It was my mistake. And I'm sorry. And I think a lot of people got their hopes up thinking that we were going to support that type of piracy where you can add games. And let me give you an explanation of why we as a company can't do that. We are working with some of the biggest partners in the world. We're working with companies like Capcom, Namco. And these companies want to build new titles and share their royalties with us and us with them. And we're going to make a lot of money doing that. And you're going to buy a lot of our cabinets. And if we allow you to sideload games on it, we won't be able to put our children through college. And so it's really important to us to stay true to our core values. But in all honesty, if we did any of that and it got publicized, those publishers would stop working with us. And there's other companies out there that work with publishers that don't have a legal department. Basically, they don't care. But the publishers that we work with at Arcade1up, for you just joining the stream, I don't work for Arcade1up. I'm making fun of them. For the publishers that we work with, they look at the forum posts. They're in a lot of the groups. They see the reaction from the community when we build products. They gauge those reactions and use that information to project sales for some of the next projects that we work on. And it really hurt us when YouTubers and other content creators and people made it publicly known that it was possible to sideload games on this. When we found out you could do that through the FCC, we immediately contacted our manufacturer and said, can we fix this? They said, the only thing we have time to do is fix the documentation in the manual to remove the idea that you can add games. But it's not a part of our contract to hide that feature. And you overlooked that, Arcade1up. That's your mistake. If you want us to stop the manufacturing, you're going to have to pay for the parts twice because we've already built and shipped tens of thousands of these units. Some of them are already reaching retail already. So in other words, it's too late. So we'll try to cover up as much as we can, and we'll backpedal as much as we can. And then we'll go on One-Up Weekly and explain it really poorly. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that topic. So I think we will get the entire mini console lineup eventually. A variation of it. I think they have to go back to the drawing board. There's two things, and John kind of said it on the show. I think this combination with this joystick at this price, it just didn't work. I think they knew that. John said he wanted to go with the Sega looking one instead of this boomerang, but the Sega required a license to get that look and feel. And so it wasn't all his choice, he said, and there was an ask from the retailer, saying, hey, we want this price point. We want a product on the table. We want it with this license, so on and so forth. And so they agreed to do that. And then they're like, this was a bad idea. I don't think for the piracy reason. I think it was a bad idea because they immediately get marked down to like $19. And I'm guessing they don't make a lot of money on those units. So it's like they spend a lot of time working on that project and there's not a lot they get back out of it. Okay, sorry. So I'm ranting a lot. I need to figure out ways to shorten my talk tracks or conversations about a subject. So Steve, Super Leaf 64, he says, lastly, I if you made a fighting game, what would be the roster, any stage or moveset ideas? I've never thought about that ever. If I made a fighting game, I mean, I'm going to change your question to what's your favorite fighting game? And I really love Street Fighter. I didn't know that until recently when I noticed myself playing it a lot. It might be because of availability. I have a Street Fighter cabinet, and I have one of the Street Fighter games on Switch, which is more of like a widescreen version of Street Fighter. Love it. A lot of fun. It is something that I play reoccurring on the Switch Lite that I have. And I don't find myself playing other fighting games. Maybe if I expanded more, my opinion would change. But as of right now, I'm kind of stuck on the same album type of thing. I don't know if you guys like that with music, where you're like, you listen to an album and you keep listening to the same album over and over again. You find yourself obsessed with that band, and then you don't move on. Smashing Pumpkins. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Soul Red's talking about the X-Men Japanese version was different. It'd be nice to have more versions. That was mentioned to Arcade1up. That, and I did watch John Deese respond to that. He said, I could see it in his eyes. He was saying like, oh, we could do that. We totally could do that. And I think in his head, what he was thinking was, and here I am assuming what he's thinking, but based on his facial features, I was trying to read him. And what I read was, it would be really easy for us to ask Konami to give us the Japanese ROM as well. And it wouldn't cost us anything extra, simple phone call. And then we talk to Code Mystics and say, hey, we have another ROM for you to put in there. Literally just put it as an Easter egg in the back. You don't have to really do any optimization to it because it's basically the same game as the original X-Men. Whatever work you do to optimize the original X-Men is going to work on the Japanese version as well. We'll pay you for your time, whatever. It's like an easy win. That's what I read from him. So I hope he does that more. And that's big on John. John keeps on talking about Easter eggs, and he's like, Outrun's going to have an Easter egg, and this is going to have an Easter egg. And, we got some console games that we can add to some of these cabinets because they come with the license. I mean, they're like, they make a royalty deal with the publishers, and there's another set of games. It's kind of like, I wonder if it's like this. I don't know if it's like this, but I work in cable and satellite for a long time, and now I work in content streaming. And it used to be the case that in the cable companies, when they would get a package to resell, like, I don't know, Viacom or something would be like, hey, it's going to cost your customers X amount of a month to be able to watch MTV, Nickelodeon, whatever. And they have a set of channels that you can't get a la carte. They're basically the channels that aren't very good. But then the channels that are like Nickelodeon or MTV, that are their top tier channels, we're talking about Viacom here, those would like cost a price. But there were stipulations, and this is based on water cooler conversations that I had with legal departments or whatever at various cable companies I worked in. I don't know if any of this is accurate, but it kind of makes sense. So the idea is you couldn't separate those channels that weren't so great. They had to come with the bigger channels. And so when there were subscription packages for cable, you're like, hey, I'm gonna get, this channel. You're always gonna get these other channels with it. And some of that is actually dictated by the publisher of the TV channel. Like they're the ones saying like ESPN must be on the bottom tier and ESPN2 is in your middle tier. Like that's part of like the contract negotiation of how their channels and packages work. Anyway, maybe you're familiar with that and understand that. It makes sense. It's a good analogy for my understanding is John D is saying there's some of these contracts that they're making, these share royalty deals for certain arcade cabinets where they can get Killer Instinct from Rare and, they're going to have to pay for Battletoads. They're going to pay for Killer Instinct, but they can kind of like put in the Double Dragon Battletoads and like it doesn't really cost them extra. Like it's not like this fourth game that's super expensive. It's just they just shove it in as an Easter egg. But that's like some of those games are like console games, and they're like, oh, it doesn't fit on an arcade cabinet. You're like, oh, whatever. We'll just put it in a menu where you have to press Konami code, and then it'll unlock it. And why not? Okay. Anyway, I'm spending too much time on these subjects. I'm really sorry. I see. I guess I'm really self-conscious because I'm more of like I'm sitting here talking. I wish there was someone else with me talking right now, maybe Ralph or somebody else. But it's like I want to go to the next subject, and I want to go to the next subject, and I want to go to the next subject. But sometimes it's hard to like just see. Lewis is all like, I prefer ESPN 8, the Ocho. Yeah, see, those are both Rare titles. Let's see. Hollywood asks Jamie, how interested are you in the new Switch Pro? I'm disappointed. No hardware upgrades other than the screen. What's the point? Yeah, I've been following that a little bit. It was kind of interesting. I saw, who did I see it from first? I think it was Spawnwave or RGT85. I can't remember. Metal Jesus, maybe. And it was just like an hour later, like, just like I got notifications from like every classical YouTuber that I know that covers Switch. It was like boom, 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 boom. I didn't watch them all, but what was it? Some like article or something that led to it's going to be an OLED or something like that. I don't know. But you make a good point, Hollywood. So is it still going to be 720 and then you dock it? Is it 4K? So, I mean, is it running on the same hardware or is it just the screen size that's different? Let's see. JJ says, why do you think Arcade1up is focusing on 90s arcade games versus 80s these days? Would love to see Tron, Zaxxon, Battlezone, Donkey Kong, Q*bert, Vanguard, Baby Pac-Man, etc. in fighting games from the 90s. There was something that David McIntosh said a couple, I don't remember when he said it, whatever, within the last year. David McIntosh, marketing from Arcade1up, he said they do a lot of analytics on Facebook. People that say keywords for arcade titles, how many people like that post. They do voting. Okay. And then that they understand demographics. They understand age groups. All of this analytics is available through various forums, Facebook, Hold on, I don't know if I lost the audio here. Hold on, let me check. No, it looks good. It's good. Okay. Anyway, I think they're making a lot of titles that they're making because they know they will sell. And the data says that if they make those older titles, they may not sell. And so I think they're just trying to ride the wave as long as they can, right? And I think they're afraid that the wave's going to crash one of these. Like, they make a bad move. And I talked to some other people that are in the industry, and they have predictions of what Arcade1up's going to do. They think there's going to be like this saturation point, which kind of makes sense that eventually it could happen. Yeah, so David McIntosh still works for Arcade1up. So about that, David McIntosh, he works with a lot of like magazines, Forbes. And for John D in the last 6 months, it's like John D was handling a lot of social media communication, direct to consumer communication. And so that's why we would have John D on the show, not David McIntosh, because John D is the one that's like more, at least in the last 6 months or a year or so, more involved in the social groups, where David seemed to be more communicating with people that are writing articles on the internet. So, but I heard a lot of that's changing. So who knows what it's going to be like in a couple months? Who knows? I heard David's going to take a different role. Like, you'll see David more, and then they got the other guy, right? And so Cyrus, right? Yeah. John D. David was white collar, and John D is no collar. So the difference, David is literally a marketing guy, right? That's what he does, is marketing. Whereas John D is a gamer and was QA for Sega and Sony, but he also did marketing. But then he's the head of their licensing. He used to work at Capcom. So he's really good at getting the licenses off. Obviously, he works on that project, but he does have some marketing background. But number one is he's the gamer, so he relates to us. Whereas David McIntosh is a marketing guy. Let's see. What else we got? So Willie says, I'm surprised how popular Killer Instinct seems to be. Was never a fan. Couldn't get past the awful character models. Yeah. So definitely Killer Instinct is not a game for me. Maybe I never said that outright. If I've held that back, it's only because I didn't want to say anything that would... What am I trying to say? If you're into Killer Instinct, great. I don't want to burst your joy. But Killer Instinct was a game that I never gravitated to. It was Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat that I enjoyed playing. I think Killer Instinct is interesting from a hardware perspective, from the technology that it was required to play that game, how it's a struggle to emulate if you have a constrained device, and what Arcade1up is doing to battle those challenges, and what that could mean in the future. So that's I find interesting. and Zohar agrees 110%. Well, I agree 111%. Zohar. Michael G. John D is unprofessional as hell. Yeah, early on I thought his unprofessionalism was a like a quality, that was good. But more and more, I think we should see more professionalism coming from the spokesperson for Arcade1up, higher than what we've seen before. And maybe that is John, but I think John, hopefully his hiatus, if he does come back with more of a role, then more of a marketing role. If he does come back with that, I hope he has more professionalism in the future. I think if he does, he will. Because I think this last few weeks kind of put his foot in his mouth several times. Up to that point, maybe anything that he said was considered edgy. It's just John, And he kind of put his foot in his mouth several times. And that did depress me, that he put his foot in his mouth several times, offended some people, and he did it on a platform that I helped create. And that sucked. I won't lie to you. That I hated that. Absolutely. I didn't agree with some of the people's opinions about the backlash. I felt like I was aware of some of the information that kind of took place in some of the drama. I didn't want to add any fuel to the flame, because if you speak up and say, well, actually, this is what happened and what you're saying is inaccurate, then they'll just people just attack me, saying that I'm ignorant and that I don't know what I'm talking about. So all the fire went away anyway, and I knew it would. Because eventually someone's going to ask for details, and then when the details are missing, everyone went like this. Oh, right, everything's fine because you started asking for details, and there wasn't anything there. Because people are just making up conjecture. Anyway. Let's see. Dreamcast Kyle grew up on MK. I prefer that. Paul's like, hey, Zohar. Missed you, buddy. Yeah, man. Missed you, man. Let's see. A lot of talk about this Stream Pinball FX3 tournament. It's cool. You guys are doing some fun stuff. Killer Instinct, Virtual Fighter 3. I was great at back in the day. Doubt I could remember anything anymore. Street Fighter, X-Men. I can still play them all. MK, not so much now. Zero Hero. Yeah, I'm a Killer Instinct fan. I'm excited to have that cabinet. Zohar says, hey, Paul. I missed you too. I try to get away from some of the negativity that Justin was throwing at me lately. I still see them here, but I try not to pay attention to Justin anymore. I'm just putting words in Zohar's mouth to get him to get angrier. That's all. JJ says, Michael G, you're spot on. Vaping and drinking while doing interviews, dressing like a slob, etc. Having said that, I don't dislike him, but an SVP? Dude. I feel you, JJ. I couldn't get past the constant vaping on the show. It's good feedback. I appreciate John coming on the show and telling us what's coming out. He could have done a better job communicating it. Yeah. Yeah. The first few John D shows were pretty good. Explaining what he did on Sega and Sony was super interesting. He was a different dude back then, LOL. Michael G, I went to your Instagram. You really did have, I don't know what that, Pacina over? Oh, Daniel Pacina? Wow, that is cool. Let's see. Tony's like, Zohar is back. LOL, I won't mention names because they're so toxic, but it's not Justin. I have zero issues with Justin. See, Zohar and I are tight. We're not as tight as we used to be, but I feel that the love will always be there. It's like Zohar was my first fan. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm getting closer to the edge of the chat. I need a GamePro magazine with all the Killer Instincts moves on the road trip to Florida, but I absolutely dominated against anyone in the arcades. PCB. Cool memory, but I still prefer MK or Street Fighter 2. And Zohar shows his love back to Zero Hero. Brad's like, Zohar is awesome. Paul's like, I just cannot commit the time to beat the game. It's too frustrating. Zohar says, till I die, Justin. Definitely was mad at you, but only by association. Yeah, so I'm going to say this live, Zohar. Give me permission to do it, okay? Zohar, say it. It's okay, dude. Go ahead. Please. Can I get your permission? My favorite show was the Zohar special. Mine too. Seriously. Like literally the other day, Zohar posted on Facebook, hey, here's a link to the show I had with our Arcade1up. What the hell am I talking about? See what I'm talking about? See what happened? I'm talking about 1UP Weekly, but I said Arcade1up. Anyway, I wanted to reply, that was my favorite show too. And it still is. Okay. Zohar gave me permission. Say whatever you want, LOL. Here was my complication, Zohar. You may be the only person in this chat that can understand this. I felt like we had a good understanding and a good relationship. And there was a lot of positive things between you and the show. And then there was some negativity, not by you, by somebody else. Or let's say actions of another person caused negativity. And I felt like I was put in a position where I'd have to make a choice. And there was no Kobayashi way out of it. It was someone was going to be upset. So I just did nothing, hoping that other people would just let it go. Because I was afraid of making an action that would cause one person to feel, in either way, would feel they were wronged, right? But then it was almost as if by doing nothing, there was one person that was upset. And I didn't know what to do. By not doing something, there was a person that was upset. If I did something, then the other person would be upset. But I didn't want either person to be upset. So I chose to do nothing. Because if I did something, then it would have been my direct actions that upset somebody. And if I did nothing, it would be my indirect actions that upset somebody. Anyway. Okay. So that's it, guys. That's all I have time for. We did a 2-hour stream talking. I have to end because my throat is hurting from talking so much. And I hope you've enjoyed this live stream. If I said or did anything that offended you or made you feel that you want to defend somebody else, do not comment below because I don't care. See you guys on the next one. Take care.